Hey there, and welcome to the Hey Kahla Podcast. I am your host, Kayla Evans. If you are listening to the show, a reminder, we have the video over on YouTube. If you're already watching on YouTube, welcome. In this week's episode, we are talking all about the importance of finding a community or building a community or just belonging to a community so that you don't have to do life or business alone. And this is something that I had to learn the hard way as an entrepreneur because my very first year in business, probably 2022 to 2023, so about a year and a half, I was truly the solopreneur. Like I went at it alone. I didn't join any groups, not even an online Facebook group. I did not go to a single networking event, and I just stayed put like right here really the whole time. And the only time I was ever around others was either when I was doing coaching sessions or when I emceed events or when I was at the arena hosting Winnipeg Jets or Manitoba Moose games. And while I like it, it is tough, and it was really tough. And I think that this goes back to really an entire lifetime of being an introvert. I have always felt, and I still do feel, that I do my best, most creative work when I'm alone in my house, which is my universe. It's my favorite restaurant. It's my favorite movie theater. It's my favorite, all-time favorite place on the entire planet. And there is truly nowhere else I'd rather be than in my cozies with my coffee, hanging out at home with my music, my snacks, my books, my plants, my pets. I'm in my garden, like this is my happy place, right? And I've always just done things alone, and I do prefer to be alone. And I also grew up as a country kid, and I know what I'm about to say is a massive gross generalization, but country folk don't always go and ask people for help, right? Like we just do the thing ourselves. We're pretty capable, independent, really handy people. And that being said, I was also raised by an incredibly fiercely independent farm kid mom. Like, have you seen that meme? It's this guy and he's like moving a couch or a love seat and like he's carrying one end and then he's got the other end of that couch on like one of those office wheelie chairs. And the caption's like, when you're too independent to ask for help, or I'll just do it myself or something like that. Like that's my mom. Like she will do everything by herself, for herself. And she'll actually do everything for you too, usually by herself. Like if she comes over here to help me with a project, at one point, like I'll go get a coffee or a drink, I'll come back and I'll realize like she's completely taken over and she's doing the whole thing on her own. So that's what I really grew up around. And then when I got into my working professional life, when I was in TV and radio, I was part of an on-air team, like when we were on the air. But being a weather and community host most of my career, it's really its own thing, right? Like even in the newsroom, you're going to have 10 people working on the news, like putting together the newscast, putting together stories for the same show. But you're the only person doing weather. So you're always part of the group, but you're always just like on the peripheral, like on the perimeter of the group, if that makes sense. So I feel like I just have all this programming that I'm going to do things alone and I want to do things alone. But let me tell you, 2024 has been a completely different game for me. I have noticed a massive shift in myself, not only as a business owner, but as a woman, especially over the last 6 months. And I owe a huge part of it to the community that I now surround myself with, which really surprises me to even say that. Because I used to hear it all the time in podcasts, you see it on social media, like, yeah, surround yourself with like-minded individuals, women in business. And I tried so long again to do it alone. And honestly, I just thought that was a bunch of BS and just an excuse to get together with your friends and drink a bunch of cocktails and call it a business meeting or a mastermind. But I could not have been more wrong. And I am still absolutely floored by the things that these folks have taught me and the way that they have helped me and supported me to become a better person all around in my business, in my life, in my health, in my relationships, everything. So now I am like a firm, full believer that you need to surround yourself with people that want the best for you and people who are going to support you to be your absolute best. And this all started back in the spring. I spoke at the Hustle and Charm Roundtable event, which was in celebration of Women's History Month and International Women's Day back in March. And that room there at the Delta was packed with the most inspiring, cool, like badass women. They made me feel so welcome. I felt so comfortable with them. We were swapping business tips and life advice. We were talking about our lives. And it was just a really awesome event, which actually led me to join their membership. You probably see it all the time all over my social media. I love those gals. So going to the monthly meetings and the hangouts and all the things that I've already learned from these women, it's just blowing my mind. And not just in my life, like they're so inspiring, but the things that they share, like openly share about how they run their businesses, like the programs they use, the software they use. I've learned everything from having client agreements to how to take large payments. Like I learn so much from them. And every time I leave one of those meetups, I just feel like I'm on fire and I cannot wait to get back here to my desk and just get stuff done and start putting things into practice. So I'm not sponsored at all, but if you're looking for an entrepreneurial women's group to join, I cannot recommend them enough. Again, that's Hustle and Charm. Coffee break. I also graduated earlier this summer from the Leadership Winnipeg program, which is a partnership between the Winnipeg Chamber of Commerce and Volunteer Manitoba. And that was another huge opportunity and a really great way to meet people. It's another program that I will absolutely recommend to everybody until they stop doing it. Like if you haven't done it yet, you need to get into it. I came into that program with one friend, my girlfriend Kyla, who I actually met at a fundraising event for her nonprofit a few years ago. And I ended the program with friends that, again, have just totally changed the game for me. We still keep in touch a few months later, and I have a feeling that we're going to remain in touch for a really, really long time. We actually just went to yoga in the plaza, which was hosted by Moto Yoga, another awesome community. And it pretty much combined all of my favorite things. Like we were outside, we were doing yoga, I was hanging out with my gals. I absolutely loved it. Could not have been better. And then we went and got coffee at Fools and Horses. So good. So it was really like the perfect Saturday morning. I was just so in love with that whole morning. It was awesome. And when I was surrounded by these brilliant and empowered and beautiful women who I admire and I just have so much respect for, I had this like little moment, like a country bumpkin moment, where I almost couldn't believe that I was lucky enough to be part of that group. And my bestie Kayleen and I had met up with that group there, the group that I met through Leadership Winnipeg. And I looked over at her and it just hit me like, yeah, we are part of this group and we deserve to be part of this group. We attracted friends like this and people like this because we ourselves are empowered and intelligent and hardworking people who are out there doing the things. And it was just, again, just a wonderful experience. And I think that you can also build community from some really surprising, I would say, surprising sources too. My nail tech, who I've absolutely come to adore, and I would consider her my friend now. One of the last times I was in there getting my nails done, she invited me to what she called a small party that her and her friend were hosting at this local community club. And she said, it's going to be food and music and dancing and games. It's going to be so much fun. So of course, I took my bestie Kayleen, and when we walked in, we were floored by how absolutely beautiful everybody was dressed. Like it looked like we walked into an Indian wedding. It was so beautiful. It was so colorful. And we're walking around the room and looking around. And Kayleen notices, like, there's only women here. Like, there's only women and little kiddos. And I was like, yeah, I don't really know. And so she looks at the ticket and she Googles the name that's on the ticket. And I'm not going to try to say it because I'm not going to do it justice. I'm just going to butcher it. But it basically translated to the Festival of Women, which at that point I just looked around the room again and I got such chills. It was so beautiful. And I do have quite a few photos that I'm going to be posting on my Instagram later. If you want to check those out, you can find me there at Hey Kahla. But in that moment, just noticing like, you were invited to the Festival of Women with all these other amazing women. Like I just felt so honored, and they were like truly including us in the dancing, in the singing. We got to play games with them. And one of the games I absolutely loved, it was so much fun. I want to do it with like my other groups of friends, was a group of us gals were standing on stage with our phones, and you had to call somebody and then hang up. So pretty much leave like a missed call or like a butt dial for, they said like your husband, your boyfriend, your partner, and then whoever got a call back first won the prize. And I'm on the stage, and me and Kayleen were the only white people in the room. I'm the only one on stage who wasn't wearing a wedding ring, and I really had no man to call. So I'm standing there. My first thought was to call Kayleen, but of course she's sitting there in the audience, and I felt like that was cheating, and I definitely didn't want to do that. So I'm standing there and I just decide that I'm going to call my mama. Like, surprise, surprise, right? Who else do you call when you need help? You call your mama, right? Who did not call me back, and I did not win. But it was so much fun. And it just, again, made it very clear how much that I depend on other people to help me out. And it was just one of those moments where I just thought, yeah, who are we really without the love and support of the people around us, whether that's new friends you're making, whether it's old friends you've had since grade 7, whether that's your mama. And I mean, I've just always had that love and support from my mom and from my bestie Kayleen, and they just demonstrate all the time what it means to be a woman that just uplifts other women and other people. And that celebration was great. It was such a community. I cannot believe the way they welcomed us. I just absolutely loved it because, to be honest, at one point I did feel a little awkward. And we made the comment as we were leaving, and I was saying bye to my friend Sonia, that we're going to come back next year if you host it with a bigger group of our friends and celebrate the Festival of Women. And it was just incredible. And then I guess there's my own community that I have here online that I absolutely adore. It's just called the Hey Kahla community, which you can join either through my website or through the show notes. And right now it's mostly just me chatting with people through DMs and emails. One day I hope to make like maybe a private Facebook group kind of thing, but that's kind of a future thought. I've got a lot of, what do they say, pans in the fire or irons in the fire. So that's for the future. But what I do know, or what I've really come to know, is that you can only go so far on your own. You only have a certain amount of time and a certain amount of energy and a certain amount of talent and a certain amount of knowledge. You can do amazing things on your own. I truly believe that. I see that all the time. But eventually you will get to a point where you can't do any more. You can't get any further. And that's when, if you lean on others, you will be able to go further. You will be able to grow even more. And I'm just really grateful for the group or groups of people that I found and I've joined, and still amazed by the things that I've learned from them and the ways that I've grown since meeting them. So all these stories are just to encourage you to make a date or a plan with someone in your life who you enjoy being around, who is either on their own journey of being their best selves or somebody who encourages you to be your best self. And if you don't have anybody like that, I would encourage you to go find those people. That's what I did. That's what I had to do. I had my mama and I had Kayleen, but I didn't have a lot of friends when I started 2024. So again, Hustle and Charm or Leadership Winnipeg, absolutely incredible groups. You can give them a Google, find them there, and just go to networking events. I just went to my very first Creative Mornings event last month, and I absolutely loved it. And if you are going to be going to networking events and you're hoping to find those like-minded individuals and you're a little bit nervous about that kind of thing, about putting yourself out there, walking into rooms where you don't really know anybody, I did an entire podcast episode on how to talk to strangers and go to events alone that might really help you out. It's the episode from June 26th. And then just remember to celebrate and support the friends and colleagues you do have and that you do admire. It's easy. You can text them like a really lovely compliment. You can send them an encouraging voice message. You can take them out to celebrate their hard work, grab them a coffee, promote their business on social media, all of that kind of thing. It doesn't have to cost a lot, but it really means so much. And if you have a best friend or a group of friends that you thought of during this episode, make sure to share it with them and just remind them that you are there for them and you love them. And that's pretty much it for now. If you have any comments, ideas, or anything that you'd like to add to this convo, please feel free to send me a note. You can always find me info@heykahla.com. And for anything and everything else, you can head on over to heykahla.com or send me a note at info@heykahla.com. And as always, thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I hope you have the best day.